Hi guys. So let's look at the topic of today, understanding the Linux operating system. So we're going to look at Linux operating system in a slightly revision manner, like a guide manner at the basic level. Okay. If you download Linux, what are the things you need to know? Main importantly, you need to know that. For that, I did this video. So it's Linux is a powerful and flexible operating system. Like it's a open source and flexible operating system both widely used in servers, desktops, and mobile devices. Okay, what's the main difference between Linux? Let's say we need to talk about that main importantly. Like Linux is an operating system. Windows is also operating system. But why don't we choose Linux almost all of the time, but we choose Windows? One developers or some research field scientists or AI ML engineers, like those engineers use Linux, but not other people. Not even few of the developers doesn't use Linux. Why? Because Linux is a code based. Okay, we need to code. We need to write commands for every single thing, to even access a file, to access a memory, to store something, to create a new folder. You need to write the command. The command which it has its own syntax, rules of regulations. According to that, we need to write a command. And if it comes to Windows, we just need to click to open a folder or to create a folder. We just need to go to a file manager. We just need to click. Then automatically the new file come. The new options comes among other options, and you need to click new option. Automatically the folder arises. In that you can name it just by clicking backspace, and you can name that. But it doesn't work for Linux like that. You need to access your root folder. You need to access the all other main folders to store folder inside another folder or something like that. It takes a lot of time to code and to generate something or to store something for normal things. But if it comes to complex things, Windows, we can't do complex things because it asks for administrator permissions. There are many permissions which it has something like password. We can't access the files easily. Okay, but it does not work like that for Linux. You can access the root folder, you can access main folder easily, but the thing is that you can access if it's only your computer. If the Linux is available only in your computer, but from outside, like hackers can't access anything in your computer through Linux. They might access if they are skilled. They might access it if they're skilled in Linux and they are a hacker through which they use Linux a lot of the time. Then they might access. It's not like it's impossible to access in Linux, but the security features protects as much as it can compared to Windows. It is 10x better of the security of having security features in Linux. Okay, why? Because most of the people doesn't try to access Linux operating system because they know it's complex, it takes time, it's not easy, and it depends on timelines. Like there will be time for every single time you have to access within the period of time. There will be things like the restricted access, everything. But Windows is not like that. The other hackers can access easily because it's a graphical user interface. Because of those things, it concentrates more on graphical user interface, means with to show everything in graphic, but it doesn't concentrate on main thing, that is, as you know, security features. Security, how do security features get enhanced? File manager, memory management, these are the things where it needs to have more and more secure way to store something, to retrieve something. The process which we do should be secure, encrypted, decrypted again and again, again and again, every single time we try to access it. But Windows is not like that. Once done, it's done. It won't try to again from the first do everything. But Linux is something which starts from first again and again. Even if you do multiple times, it doesn't store as a temporary memory. It doesn't store in cache or temporary memory, something like that, before to make it easier to access things. It doesn't work like that. You need to go from the first again. If you finished, you need to go from the first again. You don't have any other choices. That's what the amazing thing in Linux. And there are many things like it uses terminal, it uses shells. We need to look at that. We're going to look at that, how what is the difference in terminal shells, etc. Let's see what distribution. See, Linux has many distributions, means many versions. Okay, Windows has Windows XP 10, 11, 9, something. Those Windows versions we have something similar to that. Linux also has versions which are called as distributions. Okay, a complete operating system built around the Linux kernel. Kernel means what? A heart, or we can tell a CPU of an operating system. We can tell it has a heart or CPU of an operating system. If it comes to Windows has a kernel. It's used main for memory management, but Linux also a kernel also has a kernel. It's used for memory management and for all other managers, mainly for security purposes. But this Linux kernel, by using Linux kernel will be same, but we will try to change something in that in a different way. The main thing motive is security features. So they're gonna concentrate more on security features. If they have a more better security feature than old version, then they're gonna change it and release a distribution, another new distribution named it as separately. Like Linux has many versions. Like there are many versions. Can I tell? There are many, and if it comes to history, it has a rich history. Like it's founded in 1990s, and nowadays it's very famous. Before, and Unix was the first very operating system which people was using. There are many operating systems which people are using, but Unix was mainly widely spread at that time in early 1990s, that time. But someone like who is named as Linux, like as a second name, that person invented Linux in 1990s by using Unix kernel. Means Unix heart of the operating system. He used some few mix of his own code, a mix of Unix code. He mixed it up in and then a better security features and released Linux. But still, Unix are mostly taught at colleges, schools, which I prefer not to, because it's an old version. If they teach Unix, like they won't have time to learn for newer, better version. To learn to have a future enhancement, to learn better for future, they need to learn something which is more tougher, which is more skilled, and which is in demand, rather than learning old things, right? I still prefer Linux rather than Unix and those things. Okay, choosing the right one. You need to know which distribution you need to choose. Every distribution has its own specialty. See, Windows also has its own specialty, but nowadays Windows is getting more boring because it's like copying things, and nowadays compared to Windows XP and 9 old versions and Windows 10 and 11, it's weaker, right? Compared to those things, people prefer Windows XP rather than Windows 10 and 11. Why? Because Windows 10 and 11 has its own special specialities, but it's not used most of the time, those specialities, and it also has its own defects. That's why you need to see all of this. What's the specialty? What's the defect? You need to see of the specific version or distribution to choose the right distribution, right? So let's get to the topic. Linux has its own structure. Like Windows also has its own structure. It works similar to this. Like it also has bootloader. Like when you get at starting, it will get booting. It will try to restart everything. It will try to boot. What is my boot? It's nothing but it's gonna check previous thing, and it's gonna delete all of those things which should be deleted. It's gonna make a computer as new thing. It's gonna delete all the old file things which was still working, so that it we can have more memory space, then keeping more memory allotted to the old things which are like a history to us, right? Bootloader, we have many bootloaders like in Linux like Grub, Uboot, Vivi. In kernel, I told you heart of the operating system. It's a core of the Linux operating system. It's responsible for managing system resources, like file management to store. We gonna store how memory management works, how file management works, every information in system resources. And example like dustbin, there are many things, apps and resources, and how things work for this whole operating system. This all code is returned and stored in system resources, system files. That's the kernel which needs to be maintained with the security, highest security. System calls, file system, an interface between applications and the kernel, allowing program to access system resources. See, to access system resources, you need your own application, or which is gonna work as an you need your own programs or a code or application, you can tell, which is gonna work between what, which is gonna work between user interface applications or some other applications from outside, and from from your kernels of your Linux operating system. Between these two, you need some applications or interface to work. Those are called file systems, system calls. Okay, where you're gonna store and access every system resources. Okay, user space, applications. As I told you, applications, you should know what's application, right? User space, you as a user you will have some space to store in dustbin or to read and store in dustbin or something like anonymous and other options, other applications you will be provided for a user separately. These applications is provided as an interface and a tools to interact with the system or kernel. Okay, this is an user space applications. Shell, bash, ash, shell. There are many shells which Linux uses, like bash, ash, example these are shells, and it does init process like initialization process it does, and script and environment variable are more here because commands are more. So there should be script and environment variables. So it has its own syntax and rules. GUI, TUI, graphical user interface is there, but not as much as Windows. But if we implement graphical user interface, there is nothing different between Windows and Linux because Linux is mainly dependent on its own future, which is security, but Windows is mainly dependent on graphical user interface because it's used mainly widely in households or to make things easier. Okay, for normal people, not for researchers and etc. Okay, let's look at these principles. Open source, modularity, user freedom. Linux is open source software. It can be used freely, it can be modified freely, we can download the distribution freely. Next, modularity, wherever we want. We can download it wherever we want. Code, we can download it wherever we want. We can even edit the code of Linux to implement another Linux or something like Unix. I told you, from Unix, Linux has been developed. How do you think Unix owner let this Linux some person to develop the Linux by using the Unix code? Because it's also open source software. At the same time, Linux is also open source software. You can reinvent something by modifying something in Linux. You can invent it as a distribution, or you can invent it as your own operating system. Modularity. Linux is designed with a modular structure, allowing for flexibility and customization. It has like a paragraph type of structure. It has code how codes are implemented. This much line, only half line, only one line, only few paragraph code. Those things like a separation of code and first code is stored separately in files is done. Those things separation division is called, those process is called modularity. This modular structure of Linux helps us to have a flexible way of accessing the code or running it again. The code we don't need to write again and again same code. We can run it by modifying it in different ways. Okay. User freedom. As I told you, Linux code can be edited. You can do your own operating system if you want. Those are freedom and etc. You have a freedom to download, you have freedom to use it. Linux is mainly used for security features, but not for graphical user interface. But its environment is almost better for software developers. Like those who develop something in an engineering field, they know code, so they know commands. It's quite easy for them to use Linux than Windows actually. If they get used to Linux, they're not good with Windows. Why? Because Linux, they have a habit of using code, so they'll forgot to click the things itself. Like they'll be addicted to writing code every time. So the freedom is that we can code rather than clicking or doing something graphical user interface type, which people don't like and prefer to write code. Like me, I also prefer to write code. I also prefer to use Linux rather than Windows because Windows is slow first of all. Because of its graphical user interface, it's slower than Linux, which I don't like. Every single time, even for doing video, it took a lot of energy for me, and that too, I did not succeed. I'm doing through my mobile because Windows operating system doesn't tolerate more memory, more file management, or it doesn't tolerate speedness, fastness like Linux. But Linux, I do have a Linux operating system as well, but it's way more faster compared to Windows. Maybe at starting bootloader, it will take time because it's a Linux. It all has a bunch of code which needs to boot from the first again and again, right? But after that, it's gonna be easy for you guys. You will know when you use it. Kali Linux and VS Unix. Okay, Kali Linux is one of the distribution in Linux. As I told you, it's a mainly used distribution nowadays. Nowadays, we use two types of Linux, like parent Linux OS, something new Linux, and Kali Linux is a old version Linux which people use. I prefer Kali Linux because it's quite nice. Well, the name is also attractive because of that as well. Okay, Unix. What's the difference between these things? Security focus. Kindness has high, but Unix varies. Like sometimes few things, like file management or few things, it may have a high security feature, but for few things like some other management or system resources, it will have less security feature. It depends. Command line tools. It has more commands. You need to for every single thing you need to write command. But Unix, it depends. Sometimes one command can do two operations or something like that. It's like linked or connected, something like that. But Kali Linux, if it comes to Kali Linux user interface, it's command line based as I told you. But Unix, it depends. Like you can be command line based or it can be graphical user interface. I will tell you how. Like you need to explore Unix yourself to know more about Unix. But I would rather prefer Kali Linux. First learn Kali Linux, then learn Unix because it will be easier for you to learn that. And nowadays one more Red Hat is so famous in Kali Linux. Like it's where it's preferred more because command are way more better. They prefer. Okay, let's say it to Linux. There are three things you need to know to be good at Linux. Shortcut keys to operate Linux. Installation process of Linux. How to use terminal according to your advantage or how to use terminal instructions according to your advantage to operate Linux in a better way. Shortcut keys. There are many shortcut keys. Shortcut keys can be divided into various ways while learning, like terminal and many things like file management, memory management, and system calls. You can divide it, and if it comes to file management, you will use Control H, Control N, something like this. Shortcut keys to access things to do it very better way. Writing commands, 10-line commands, better to use shortcut keys in an easier way. Control N. enough to open a new file in text file or something like that. But you need to write bigger command for that, which is not an advantage. Better use shortcut keys, because whenever you feel lazy, you can use shortcut keys. Whenever you feel like you need to code, you can write command. Okay, installation. Installation, it's very important to see some other YouTube videos or something like that on installing Linux, because you need to know which line you need to tick so that you can read. Otherwise, you read the rules and regulations in a very careful way so that you can tick those lines in a better manner. Terminal. You need to use terminal. It's a powerful tool, which is used for interacting system, like interactive system or a kernel of the Linux operating system with commands. Like you can order through terminal by using commands. So like the first home page is like itself a terminal for a Linux. Okay, file system hierarchy standards. See, file system, how Linux file system works means it will have a root directory. Root directory means what? Root directory means a main directory or a thing, a main file folder, like a folder. It's like a folder inside the system directory, user directory allies. Like root directory is like a folder of Windows, like Windows info. Windows, how it will be? It will be there will be folder. This PC is what? It's like a folder for all other folders. Root directory is like a distribution, a system directories and user directories like a downloads, documents, and other for folders. And in system directories there are bin, user, whole system files, other files, which is a file inside a document and download, right? User directories is also like a one folder which has numerous files related to data and user file, etc. Linux command. Okay, Linux command. As I did you saw the see example here? And to access it, you need your own command, right? To access root directory, to access system directory, user directory, you need commands and you need names. See, these are the commands which are used, but you need to know clearly how to use these commands through studying commands separately. Normal commands which is used in whichever code page you see Linux document, you will see ls cd mkdir rm. You should not get confused. These are the basic commands which you need to know compulsory to operate Linux. ls, it lists files and directories in a directory. It's in the file, it's going to list all the files which are available to access it easily, so you can know the name and detect, oh, this is the file which I need to access, like that. Then cd changes the current directory. You can change the current path of the file or current file name, something like that. Like you will access the current directory, you will access the current file. And mkdir, it creates a new file, new path sets for every single file or directory or root directory, something like that. Mkdir means make directory. Its full form is make directory, make a file, make a folder, like that. Then it's access the current directory. Cd access the current directory, current file. It makes a directory mkdir. Rm removes the file or directories from the list or from the Linux kernel, etc. There is TD, there is CD, LS, and like NSS also has different, like what should I say, steps or different other LSs there. You need to know about this step by step by knowing commands. Working with Linux terminal and shell. You need to know the difference between terminal and shell in Linux. Terminal is nothing but text-based interface. Like it's a text-based something which connects kernel and other things. Then shell is the like terminal. It's a text-based platform like that, where we will which is used for interactive Linux kernel system, like a system resources, files, root directory. To interact that, we will use terminal. It's a code-based platform where we're going to write commands, and you need a shell or you need something place where you're going to execute this code which is written in terminal, right? That place is shell. It's an interpreter, it's a converter or interpreter, we can tell, which is going to interpret the command lines which you wrote in terminal and reads and executes the command entered in the terminal. Okay, next. You need to know the Linux text editor and configuration file difference. Text editor is nothing but it's going to create and modify all of the files which are there into a plain text documents. Everything is gonna modify and create. And configuration files is nothing but it contains settings, as I told you. System calls, file system. It's where you're gonna store your directory and other directories, systems directories, which is related to system kernel, and those files are called configuration files. It's going to store the settings or however Linux performs those things, behavior of the system, applications, operating system. Next, examples. See, configuration file, if it comes to password, host, fstab, these are the command prompt which is used because this enables us to access few things which is related to system administration. Okay, next. Thanks. So the here we gonna finish the lecture of today. Thank you. These are the very basic things you need to know about Linux. And if it comes to advanced, you need to know command, all of the commands. These are the advanced. And to know how to work with Linux, which you need to download yourself and you're gonna work yourself. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.